He sets 3 alarms: 6:40, 6:50, 7 o'clock. He tells people it's a safety net. It's not a safety net. It's a machine that guarantees he wakes up exhausted every single day of his life. He's done this so long he doesn't even remember deciding to. Here's the pattern. More alarms feel like more control. Fewer chances to oversleep. Fewer chances to fail at the one task that's supposed to be automatic. It feels responsible, like backing up an important file 3 times, just in case. But the body doesn't experience 3 alarms as 3 chances. It experiences them as 3 interruptions. Each one yanks him out of a different stage of sleep, and none of the exits are clean. Nobody questions it, because everyone he knows does some version of the same thing. It reads as normal. It reads as Tuesday. There's even a positive spin on it. A survey of full-time professionals found that most people who snooze actually feel good about the habit. They call it self-care, a little extra cushion before the day starts asking things of them. Nobody in that survey was asked how they felt 2 hours later, at their desk, still fighting through the fog. The habit gets to keep its good reputation because the cost shows up somewhere else, later, where nobody's tracking it back to the source. Mara sets 3 alarms: 6:15, 6:24, 6:33. She wakes up around 6:42 with no memory of choosing that. She's not lazy. 6 years of this, and she still blames her willpower. So what's actually happening? A global study tracked more than 3 million nights of sleep through a smartphone app. 55.6% of those sessions ended with a snooze alarm. Not occasionally. Over half the time. People pressed snooze an average of 2.4 times, spending close to 11 minutes drifting in and out before getting up. That drifting isn't rest. It's a stage called N1 sleep, the lightest, drowsiest stage there is. Not deep enough to restore anything, not alert enough to function in. He's paying the full-time cost of sleep, without collecting any of the benefit. It's the sleep equivalent of standing in line at a store that's already closed. Researchers at Hiroshima University tested this directly. They compared people using a snooze alarm against people using a single one. The snoozers spent significantly more time stuck in that groggy N1 stage. Their sleep inertia lasted longer too. The fog that makes the first 20 minutes feel like wading through wet cement. The extra alarms weren't buying anyone a gentler wake-up. They were buying a longer one, and a foggier one, minute for minute. Sleep researcher Rebecca Robbins points to why. The first alarm almost always lands mid-REM or mid-deep sleep. The stage is tied to memory and mood. Every alarm after that doesn't add sleep. It interrupts recovery that was already underway and forces the body to start over. 3 alarms isn't 3 gentle on-ramps. It's 3 forced awakenings, stacked. By the third one, he's spent close to 20 minutes cycling through a stage of sleep that does almost nothing for him. He hasn't rested more. He's interrupted himself for longer. Each interruption sends the body back to the start of a recovery process it never got to finish. A 2024 study in the Journal of Sleep Research found something else. People who go to bed later than usual snooze significantly more the next morning, which means the stacking isn't really a wake-up decision. It's a symptom that shows up hours earlier, at a completely different moment. The 11:40 p.m. one more episode is the actual reason the 6:40 alarm doesn't work. He blames the alarm. The alarm was never the decision point. Some guy checks his bank balance 3 times before he'll open the transfer screen. A friend reschedules the same doctor's appointment twice. Not because the new time doesn't work either. Rescheduling feels like doing something about the problem without having to actually face it. A coworker drafts the same difficult email in his head for the 3rd night running. Why send the version he already wrote on night 1? Someone at the gym does 3 warm-up sets before the working set. Every time, even on days the working set never actually happens. The warm-up has quietly become the whole workout. 4 different rooms, 4 different mornings, same shape underneath. The extra step isn't preparation. It's a stall dressed up as preparation, and it works because nobody stalls on purpose. It just happens to be where the anxiety runs out the clock instead of where the anxiety gets solved. The same 3 million night study found something else worth sitting with. People who described themselves as less conscientious snoozed more. So did people with later chronotypes, night-leaning body clocks. Not because they cared less about being on time, because the system they'd built, stack the alarms, buy some cushion, had quietly replaced something harder, trusting present tense him to just get up the first time. Somewhere along the way, the cushion stopped being a backup and became the whole plan. There's a chemical layer to this too. Waking up naturally triggers a spike in cortisol. the cortisol awakening response. That's supposed to switch the body from asleep to alert in one clean line. Lower cortisol right at waking tracks with higher sleepiness for the rest of the morning. Repeated snoozing interrupts that spike before it finishes the job, then asks the body to try again a few minutes later. Instead of one switch flipping cleanly to on, he's got a dimmer flicked up and down 3 times before breakfast. No wonder the lights never feel fully on by the time he's at his desk. The switch was there the whole time. He just never gave it the one clean flip it needed. By 10 a.m., he's on his second coffee, wondering why the first one didn't work either. There's a heart rate signature to this too. People who snooze habitually run a higher resting heart rate through the night, and especially in that last hour before waking. Snoozing keeps the body in a low-grade state of arousal, waiting to be startled again. It's the physiological version of trying to fall asleep in a waiting room, expecting your name to be called any second. Not deep rest. Not full alertness either. Somewhere stuck in between for nearly 20 minutes, 3 mornings out of every 5. So the 3 alarms were never really about sleep. They were about not trusting the version of himself that has to decide something at 6:15 a.m., half-conscious, in the dark. Instead of building that trust, one alarm at a time, over weeks of actually following through, he built a system that removes the decision entirely. Snooze, 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 until his body makes the choice for him by sheer exhaustion. Exhaustion doesn't negotiate. It looks like discipline from the outside. A man with a plan, 3 checkpoints, nothing left to chance. He's outsourcing the one moment of the day that actually required something from him to a version of himself too tired to say no. The system feels like it's working because he does eventually get up. But getting up was never the actual metric. Getting up rested was the metric, and the alarms were never built to deliver that. They were built to guarantee he'd move, not that he'd recover. He mistook motion for the goal, the way a lot of people mistake being busy for being fine. And the fog he drags into every morning meeting is the invoice for that mistake, arriving on time, every single day. What would actually fix it isn't a 4th alarm, or a louder one, or one placed across the room instead of the nightstand. It's matching the bedtime to the wake-up time he claims to want. Then letting the first alarm be the only one that gets to ring. That's a smaller, quieter discipline than 3 checkpoints and a plan. It doesn't feel like doing more. It feels like doing less. Which might be exactly why it keeps losing to the version with 3 alarms and a story about being careful. He still calls it a safety net. A safety net catches you when something's already gone wrong. This one activates every single morning, on schedule, before anything has gone wrong at all. What it hands back isn't safety. It's 20 extra minutes of fog he has to spend the rest of the morning trying, and mostly failing, to shake off. By the time he's actually awake, actually present, actually himself, the day's already been running for half an hour without him. He just wasn't in it yet. And tomorrow, the 3 alarms go off again, right on schedule, ready to do the exact same thing to him all over again. If any of this landed, there's more of this on the channel.